People are willing to get better. They want to take the right direction, but they want it to be easy. That's like the biggest thing that I'm starting to hear a lot. Well, I just want to get over it. I'm just going to do ketamine infusion. And in their mind, I think a lot of people think it's like a vitamin infusion. It's like going in, getting your B12 drip. Like, no, it's not. It's not. This is still requires work.
It's no different than a happy hour, right? Or buying a dozen donuts for some, because we're just chasing, again, back to our initial conversation, the drugs that exist within. Ketamine has multiplicities, right? Outside of, all these receptor sites that we talk about, and not to deduce that, because it is definitely beneficial when you get really granular with it. However, ketamine temporarily suspends a network that has the potential to lock us into survival, which then overtaxes epi, norepi, and dopamine, the catecholamines that are both mind and body neurotransmitters and hormones.
This idea that we can find a way to sell it, and if we can sell it for a daily intervention, why live with stress when you can just take your daily medication of ketamine? No, like that is so fundamentally against what the human experience is supposed to be. Christi Myers, welcome back. How have you been?
Fantastic. Truly.
Awesome. That's awesome, man. That's good to hear. Especially kicking off the New Year's, new intentions. You got some big moves. So let's not beat around the bush. What's going on? What's new with you?
Well, I decided to step away from serving medicine directly and take all of the intelligencies that have been learned over this last 5 years and really empower as many practitioners as possible to be able to implement ketamine as a standard of care.
Wow, that's a big move. That is not something that you must have come to a decision point lightly. Walk us through that. Why? Why now?
When I first set out, Denny, if I were to rewind the last decade of my life, it was to truly teach people how to do drugs. At the most, like, basic foundational, and I know the word drug sounds so sticky, and we use medicine, and we're gonna evolve into that. However, when I was a professor and when I was teaching medicine, I taught pharmacology, anatomy, and physiology, and the drugs that exist within are the most powerful on the planet, is us as sentient human beings. And so what does that mean to truly embody who we are endogenously? Are drugs that exist within. And when we're in professions such as yours and mine, right? 25-year first responder, I've worked in many different agencies, to include the Sheriff's Department and the Department of Defense and all these different things that essentially oversaturate our foundational drugs.
Yeah.
Our epinephrine, our norepinephrine, our dopamine, our oxytocin and serotonin. So all these really foundational drugs that exist within, or that pharmacy within, they get really compromised, right? But because we're adaptive, we don't know that until we know it, right? And a lot of times it's from tragedy or catastrophe, or compromising ourselves with some sort of autoimmunity, or some sort of disease or dysregulation, right? Uh, and now we're trying to incorporate all these different mindfulness practices. Well, fast forward, when I started building flow, I was building a dual model, right? And so I'm not a physician, I am a clinician. And so I built a model to where my organization was able to run my professional corporation. So I built the medical practice at the same time I was building all of the back office, right? So I really had this beautiful opportunity to make a significant impact in the methodology and applied theory of what it looks like to work with ketamine IV specifically.
Yeah.
And so now, having given the opportunity to build the first employer-driven benefit and serve Dr. Bronner's, I was able to really deliver medicine to so many different types of individuals, right? different demographics, psychographics, people who had never had ordinarily had the opportunity to sit with medicine, other than how wonderful Dr. Bronner's is for providing this as 100% covered benefit. Oh, yeah. And so, what that allowed me to truly create is not only the the delivery, the protocols, the approach, the massive successes we had with helping people transition through PTSD, major depressive disorder, anxiety, and all of these other different diagnoses, right? But at the same time, I was building the back office. What does that look like for insurance submission? What does that look like for all of these different things that we have to do for risk management? And to remain compliant and adhere to the corporate practice of medicine. She she she's
Yeah.
agreeing with what
Yeah,
I
that's one thing a lot of people don't key in on. A lot of people think that these medicines and the process is super easy. I think that there's a fallacy out there, especially with at-home care with you know, companies like Mindbloom. Everybody has this idea that ketamine is just so easily accessible, and of course it fits within the insurance model, and it's way easy for doctors to, but it's not. It's a convoluted system at best. And what a lot of people that don't understand or aren't privy to it, it's really difficult. It's really difficult to get something like this into the hands of a patient, to get them feeling better, to get them to live better.
for sure,
Like
and that was
that's
for sure. It was one of the biggest moral, ethical decisions I had to make. I thought they were responsible enough. We talk it
yeah.
through before I'm like, "All right, guys, keep it together." Uh, in the beginning, if you would have asked me if we would have taken insurance, there was no way, right? And because of all these limiting beliefs that we had around, is
Yep.
ketamine going to be covered? All these things, right? Well, as I was working with Dr. Bronner's and Inthea, who's a TPA, a third-party administrator, uh, that's exactly what it is. It is covered by insurance 100%. With Bronner specifically and the what they chose to provide, the variable is that there's hundreds, thousands of policies, all with different coverage and benefits. And so it really just depends on how you approach it, right? I mean, ultimately, over this 5-year span, I mean, we became a provider for the Olympics. We were covered by TriWest. We were in network with the Blues. Uh, because the more I was answering the phone and the more you could hear people asking if we take insurance, it was like, okay, what does this look like to put these systems in play, to
Yeah.
get these workflows, to make sure that we can offer this so that it doesn't become uh, upper echelon or this barriered entry with cost. And then unpacking that further, uh, it also becomes an investment into your betterment. So, how can you put a price on that? And I really sat within these two energies, right? I mean, I think about how much money I've invested into my own betterment, and it's a lot.
Yeah.
Well, like to rely on insurance coverage, the only person, well, to say this very intentionally, it's not cost effective for the provider.
Mm.
So for me to go into now, I sit in all these different realms, right? And so for me as the provider, to put the systems into play was very costly to make sure that I had the back office to support the submittal processes to allow coverage to be adequate, right? Well,
Yeah.
each insurance company has a different variable of how much they're going to pay you as the provider. And so I may have rendered 2 hours worth of service, right? But I receive reimbursement of $73 or $67 or whatever it is. And so on a single clinic the juice is not worth the squeeze, in the sense that it will bankrupt you every single time. Now, I was self-funded, and I'll tell you right now, the knowledge that I sit on was about $500,000 of my own investments. Oh, yeah.
Wow. That
For sure, and my doctors all did this for free, right? There was no we built this out of the opportunity to truly reduce suffering
yeah.
and to usher in new consciousness, and that's my contribution to the applied theory of what we're presenting, right? To be able to usher in new consciousness for people who are deep in their suffering, it allows an opportunity for you to become an observer rather than the participant in, a lot of times, if not all times, self-imposed suffering,
Yeah.
which we don't know that until we know that, right? And uh,
And
so,
it's important to understand too, like once people listening, like I wouldn't invest that much money. Yeah, but when your main mission is helping people and you see the change, when you bring somebody out of their worst nightmare, like that's one hell of a fucking go. That's one hell of a fucking success rate. Like, of course, you're going to drive that ball further down the field and try to help more
oh,
people, even if it means taking on an insane amount of debt.
for sure, an insane amount of debt, right? And my adrenal glands fell out like 3 times, I think, along the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the other part that we don't talk about. The individuals that are in the fight, caregiver fatigue. You exhaust yourself. Yeah. Financially being depleted, but emotionally being depleted and physically being depleted. Like, fuck, that's hard, man.
Oh, yeah.
That's hard.
And I have clinicians right now. Well, the mission is far greater than I, right?
Yeah.
And if you would have talked to Christi a decade ago, I had just earned tenure.
No. This episode of Security Halt is brought to you by Dr. Taylor Bosley and Precision Wellness Group. Let's be real. By now, a lot of New Year's resolutions have already fizzled out. Life gets busy, motivation drops, and health ends up on the back burner. But here's the truth. There's no better time to start than right now. Precision Wellness Group specializes in hormone optimization and hormone health, delivering personalized care and treatment right to your door. If you've been dealing with low energy, brain fog, poor sleep, or stalled performance, hormone imbalance may be the missing piece. Dr. Taylor Bosley and his team take a data-driven, individualized approach to help you get back to operating at your best. Security Halt listeners receive 25% off their initial consultation when they use Security Halt 25 at checkout. Click the link in the episode description to find out more and get started today.
I was financially taken care of, a crazy amount of benefits. You know what I mean? Yeah, all the boxes were checked. And so this mission is to significantly reduce suffering and to usher in consciousness that aligns us more with life, which will greatly evolve our species.
Yeah. Yeah.
We forget that we're
You help one person, you help them change their thinking, and then that starts a domino effect of other people willing to. And right now, ketamine is one of the most popular. Like I said, there's ways you can do it. I don't necessarily agree. I don't understand the model for it. I know people are having success, but at home by yourself, not being monitored, not with a clinician, like that just seems to me way too risky. It seems way too magic wand. Like there is a protocol. There's a reason why we have ketamine therapy, because there is a proven research and studies of how to administer, where to go, and surprise, surprise, there's a protocol for pain and there's a protocol for trauma. And individuals that I've talked to are like, yeah, just go ahead and sit on a chair. They leave me alone. I put a blindfold on. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like it's very popular. And now what I'm starting to feel is that unless individuals such as yourself get out there and start educating more on mediums like podcasts, on shows, people are going to get the wrong idea of what ketamine is and what it can do, and the ultimate goal. So if we could dive into that, like the importance of advocating, but not just advocating for people to use it, seeking out the right treatment team, the right facilities, the right way to do it, because you never know. And I'm sure it's already happened. You may have stories of it, that all it takes is one individual having a really horrible reaction, getting it on mainstream media, and then we're going to be set back decades on these
Oh, for
treatment
sure.
modalities.
And it already happened, right? But the compromise there was also having to do with the provider.
Yeah,
So there's a lot to unpack in that, and I will touch on each of them. I feel like we will definitely have more conversations as
let's do it.
this evolves, right? Um,
Yeah,
One is that when we're working with medicine IV, you're going direct into the bloodstream. So there's no variability other than the cognitive. Well, there's a lot of variability. But as far as the efficacy in the physical body as compared to an oral administration, the oral administration has to go through what's called first pass metabolism. So the variable becomes how much adipose or fat do you have? How hydrated are you? And what does your liver look like? And if you've never cleaned that out, there's definitely some stuff around that. And so that's where the dosing's all over the place, experiences are all over the place, and so on and so forth. With IV, you have more specificity. However, the dosing still becomes very imperative. I refer to it as Ghostbusters when they open the trap. So if you look at where ketamine works, it works at the limbic system. And that limbic gate is what allows us to access some of the major storage centers of the mind, which is the amygdala and hippocampus. And that's where we run essentially our mind movie, which creates our reality as we look at things through the prefrontal cortex. It's developmental, right from the back to the front. We've stored all of our trauma in these acquisition centers, and then we create our reality through all of these things that have happened to us developmentally. We can even tie it back amniotically, right? Right. And so when ketamine comes in, when we start separating that limbic system, if we separate it too quickly, then we have a potential to usher in not only new consciousness, but also push us through some of these things that we've suppressed, depressed, repressed for 10, 20, 30 decades, which can be too much too soon. That's emergence phenomenon. That's, this proverbial K-hole that we talk about, because you're slamming it. You're experiencing yourself too quickly. And so it really becomes important to have deeper conversations and assessment, right? And so some of the clinics out there right now, there is no mental health attached. There is no diagnostic evaluation prior to. You're
yep.
coming in as a medical model, and not to deduce it, but because if you look at it, they all have different levels of consciousness. And so if you have a facility who will see you the same day, they don't really care about your mental health or unpacking or prepping or integrating, and they are just going to give you an infusion and you're out the door an hour later, that creates a different type of experience. Then if you were to really go through this preparatory process to where you're now unpacking, you're having a diagnostic evaluation, we are deeming that you are mentally competent, that we're not opening up some of these potential contraindications to where you wouldn't be a candidate because we don't want to destabilize you.
Mm-hmm.
Or
That's
you need
absolutely.
or you need more talk therapy, or you need additional clearances on the medical team. So what we have built is a dual model, right? That
Yeah.
recognizes mind, body, and spirit as a really encompassing opportunity to evolve and become aware of yourself and all the different iterations of you that have existed to get you to here now.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest problems that you just hit on a little bit ago is the fad, the the idea you can just walk in, waltz in, walk right out, and it's just an easy process. There's no deep diving, there's no follow on care, there's no plan of action after treatment. That's a big problem. These medicines aren't meant for you to you're not driving to your local mall and walking in, walking right back out and going to do shopping. There's a protocol for it. There's ways to go about this. And n- now more than ever, people are willing. They're willing to get better. They want to take the right direction, but they want it to be easy. This episode of Security Halt is brought to you by Dr. Mark Gordon and Millennium Health Store. If you've listened to this show, you know how seriously we take brain health, recovery, and long-term performance, especially for veterans and high performers. Dr. Mark Gordon is one of the leading experts in neuroendocrinology and traumatic brain injury. He's just released his new book, Peptides for Health. Both the medical edition, Volume 1, and a consumer edition, Volume 1, are available right now. The book breaks down how peptide therapy supports brain health, hormonal balance, recovery, and resilience in a way that's practical and evidence-based. You can get 25% off the book by using code PTH25 at checkout, valid through March 15th. And for Dr. Gordon's proprietary health products, Security Halt listeners can receive 10% off if they use the code PHASE2P. Click the link in the episode description to find out more and visit Millennium Health Store today.
Right.
Like that's like the biggest thing that I'm starting to hear a lot. Well, I just want to get over it. I'm just going to do ketamine infusion. And in their mind, I think a lot of people think it's like a vitamin infusion. It's like going in, getting your B12 drip. Like, no, it's not. It's not. This is still requires work. It's helping you get to the point where you realize that the work is worth it, that it's part of the plan, that it's part of the mission, and you're being receptive and open to it. That's the greatest thing about these, like plant medicine and all these modalities are just finally now starting to get, their day out in the sun and being championed. Like they are amazing. They're wonderful. But the key to them, the great thing about them is they make the most hard-ass individuals willing to do the work, to get on that couch and get in front of a therapist and be willing to say, hey, I went through this. I experienced this and I'm feeling this way about it. That's the great thing. You're never going to walk away from that aspect of healing where you have to do the ugly work, where you have to do the deep work. It just helps you understand it. And it's maddening to have people describe the experience as, I just walk in, I throw some music on, and they, give my ketamine, and I'm good. I'm like,
It's no different than a happy hour, right? Or
yeah,
or buying a dozen donuts for some.
yeah,
Because we're just chasing, again, back to our initial conversation, the drugs that exist within.
yeah.
So ketamine has multiplicities, right? Outside of, all these receptor sites that we talk about, and not to deduce that because it is definitely beneficial when you get really granular with it. However, ketamine temporarily suspends a network that has the potential to lock us into survival, which then overtaxes epi, norepi, and dopamine, the catecholamines
Yeah.
that are both mind and body neurotransmitters and hormones. And so when you suspend that, like for me personally, I spent 20 years in emergency medicine, right? And so my full throttle was always escalated. Situational awareness, nowhere near comparable to military. However, not to the magnitude. We both have our different aspects,
Yeah.
but commonality. We have a lot of crossover. And so
Yes, absolutely.
if I'm full throttle all the time, what is that doing to my epinephrine and my norepinephrine? Well, it's creating a threshold. Now I have to meet or exceed this threshold or I can't feel anything.
Hence the risk behavior. Hence all the individuals that are addicted to thrill rides.
Yeah.
That and people don't understand it. Oh, he's just a speed junkie. Like, no, there's fundamental damage to your brain, to your endocrine system and body. Yes, and what our friends and family see as, oh, he's just a risk taker. No, he or she has gotten to the point where they're willing to do insane. And it goes. I mean, it's another indicator of why relationships fall apart, the infidelity, the promiscuity, all these things are tied together, but nobody's out here talking why it's happening. Just recently until Operator Syndrome came out and people are starting to realize like, oh yeah, my friend that's an absolute lunatic, maybe he needs help because he's actually dealing with issues that are multifaceted, attacking entire systems of his body and brain. not that he's just a demon and junkie for adrenaline. No, it's complicated issue. Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
And that's to the magnitude of how much you have to unpack. That's where it becomes critical that we have these conversations prior to engaging. Like, what's your willingness? What's your hard? And so let's unpack that, right? For me, I could drink energy drinks and go to bed as I was falling asleep in the back of a helicopter, right? After I just did a 100 step out and didn't have any type of climatic drugs because I had already maxed out this threshold, right? Now I want to do cherry pickers. Now I want to rappel upside down. Now I want to do these things because I'm continuously chasing these drugs. At the same time, I'm doing 2-a-days because that's my other outlet of drugs, right? And achievership. So I was running all these parallel realities, right? Like, how many degrees can I get? Maybe I can become, maybe I should have 7 or like it's like $1,000 worth of embroidery on my chest for all of my, different accolades. So I was chasing all of these drugs outside of myself. And so once I embarked on this build of what flow truly meant, right, it was the ability to lower these thresholds to create homeostasis once again and repair the physical body before it ultimately gets to a point where it shits the bed
Yeah,
in the sense that now it's autoimmunity, it's cancer, it's dysregulation, or a significant diagnoses that will require long-term care, right? I don't want to go down the sleep apnea route, not to deduce or to, shame people who have it, but I don't want this endocrine collapse. I don't want these things that are going to create these long-term hardships because I ran my body into the ground unknowingly because I thought what I was doing was just the safe and sober thing to do, right? Like, I'm not
yeah,
drinking, I'm not doing drugs, but I am chasing adrenaline like a mother.
yeah. I think that's a common mindset that a lot of people have after the military, even if they're not, like you said, you don't drink, you're very health conscious, you're doing all these other things, you're maximizing your nutrition, but you're still pushing the throttle when it comes to your endocrine system. You're chasing dopamine, like that has an effect on the rest of your body. If it's, we don't understand what it takes to produce these chemicals. And we also don't understand what happens when we give ourselves too much of something that we crave and love. And that, you build that limit. And it's in so many different things. Too much of a good thing can be bad for us. When you take it, you can quickly let it spiral out of control. And that's one of the things that I've noticed that's really, really bad about our electronic devices, our habits with engaging with things like social media, but more importantly, like consuming horrible stuff online. Pornography is a great example of it. Like, and our guys and gals I mean, shit. OnlyFans is like the number one or one of the top industries out there. Like, there's there's a lot of individuals that could get a lot of help from ketamine to overcome this addiction phase of their life, where it's like, I need to do thrill, I need to find a rush, the next thing.
Yeah.
Like,
For sure, they become easy drugs, right? And
yeah,
so the other side of this, outside of the professional aspects of how we become full throttle, is the trauma side. Right. So having survived domestic violence, having survived narcissism, having all of these things also tax out your catecholamines. And so now you have this heightened sense, or you're deep in this fear cycle, which also taxes the adrenal system exponentially because you're running these scenarios in the mind, right? Unresolved, suppressed, depressed, repressed, right? Or if I'm not going to think about it, but it doesn't mean it's still not there. Like, I have a lot of professionals that'll say to me, they're like, "Well, I don't want to know what's in there." You're like, "Well, it's still in there." You know what I mean? Like, uh,
same.
right?
Yeah, there's a lot of people on both sides of the house that have that mentality, because the idea is, I'm functioning right now, I'm
Yeah.
okay. If I touch that or I expose it, I rip that bandage off,
Ooh,
that
yeah,
band-aid off, I don't know if I'm gonna get this back. Like this, at least I'm working now.
for sure.
Yeah.
And that became one of my greater conversations with people coming in to work with the medicine. What is your willingness to evolve? Do you want to look at yourself as the common denominator? And are you open to making these changes, right? And to say it to a place where uh, they allow themselves to make this educated decision. Otherwise, is there potentially more harm than good if you're opening people up who are going to go back to an environment that makes them sick, or they don't have these opportunities? Or, I mean, there's a lot to unpack with where the psychedelics are moving and how do we create a system that has the ability to receive people developmentally based off of the consciousness that they're cultivating and their willingness to evolve through these lower dimensions that have potential to keep you sick and stuck and limited when in reality, we are some of the most incredible, we are the most incredible beings on the planet with great capacities through our ability to create realities through our mind.
Yeah. I think that a lot of people will hear that and be like, okay, that sounds like woo. Like, no, let me reframe it for you. When you're so hyper fixated on just survival. Now, this is somebody that's still dealing with trauma, still dealing with things like PTSD. Like, you're not thinking of what you're going to do to achieve that next great phase of your life. You're focused solely on your suffering, what you're dealing with. You just got in a horrible car accident. You're both your legs are pretty banged up. Your friggin' neck's messed up. You're in chronic pain. You're only focused on the pain. I know that because when I was going through my surgeries, all I could focus on is the negative and the pain. That's all I ruminated on. All I ever focused on, the absolute suffering. When you remove yourself from that equation, when you remove that out of the equation, what can you think about now? Oh, you can think about how great your life is. You can think about how wonderful your relationships are. When you're suffering, even the best of us, even the guys that are out there crushing it, the 1% of the 1%, yeah, they're functioning at work. I'm telling you, they're not going home and allowing themselves a dream of a better future, of building that business that they thought about doing all those years ago. They're not. They're stuck at that lower level. I was there. A lot of us were there before. When you get through that, when you heal, however you go through your healing journey, whether it's through conventional medicine, psychedelics, talk therapy, EMDR, whatever you find that works for you, when you get on the other side of that journey, and it's what I've seen is about, I call it the 70% rule. Once you get to that 70% where you know what you need to stay on your path and you're good, everything's working, you're sticking to your schedule, you're going to your therapy appointments, you're taking your medication, you start thinking about life differently. What could I do? What are my aspirations? What can I go back to school? Can I really do a master's program? Maybe I can be a parent. Maybe I can have kids. I'm going to go after that girl. I'm going to go ask her out. All these things become a possibility when you are elevated outside of that pain, other dimension. That's literally what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But until you experience it, until you see it for what it is, it seems like, oh, I'm fine. I'm operating at the highest capacity. It's like, no, you're not. You're in pain. It's a human thing. It's a human thing. You talk about the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If all you're focused on is survival, getting food and water, you're not thinking up here about the great things that lie ahead. You're not. You're too focused on just breathing and
And even
being
that,
on this. Yeah.
even that has major implications.
Yeah.
So that becomes a fundamental thing that we're teaching with working with psychedelics, right? Is how to breathe.
Yeah. That's, man, I always bring this up because I didn't value that. I had early on in my journey, I had a doctor at Intrepid Spirit tell me that, hey, maybe we can't do anything for your pain. Maybe you'll always have this pain, but I can offer you a mindfulness class and teach you, put you through breathwork training. And I'm not proud of my reaction. I'm not proud of how a lot of pride, a lot of anger, and I blew this lady off, and I was a very arrogant CW2 in a lot of pain. But how wonderful and how beautiful life is. Years later, I'm now 41, licensed mindfulness practitioner. I have coached for years now. And I teach people to connect with the breath. I teach people how to connect with the present moment. And that is such a powerful thing to get you out of the mindset of like, I am in this pain. I am constantly in the pain, which realizing that, no, maybe in this moment I'm not.
Right.
If I'm not in this suffering in this moment, is it truly there? Is it truly here with me? No, I can just focus on my breath. I can just breathe deeply. Understanding concepts like the vagus nerve. Never thought about that when I was on a team. Like that's not something I thought about. But the reality is it's with you intimately as an athlete and as a shooter. When somebody's instructing you how to shoot, take a deep breath. Breath in, breath out, relax. So the moment you get frustrated, people will tell you, come up off the gun, get off the scope, get off glass, just breathe, find your rhythm. Like when you have a child and they're throwing a hissy fit and you give them a pacifier, what is that child tapping into? The vagus nerve.
Right.
But none of us ever get taught this. We never learn like we know the thing we need, but we're not understanding what it's doing for our body.
Right. The how.
Yeah.
The why.
Yeah. Yep.
And to that point is the magnitude of the dysregulation of the individual seeking these types of alternative cares is also the developmental process, whether we're deciding if it's utilizing a ketamine lozenge in a traditional assisted psychotherapy, and now you're using medication as a lubricant just to get the trauma removed, versus somebody coming in and be like, look, I've done all of these things. I did talk therapy for 5 years. I've maxed that out. I've done this, this, and this. And now I'm ready to go in here at a deeper level of find the blind spots. That has phenomenology of what that can usher in for the consciousness and opportunity for your evolution. Versus somebody who's still their voice cracks because they can't find the courage yet to talk about the magnitude of the trauma they endured potentially 30 years ago. And so there's a place for all of it, right? However, there's also a huge market uh, to leverage some of these medications for long-term daily usage, which is also not the mission.
Exactly. That man, you just hit on something that a lot of us in the advocacy space are now talking about. This idea that, well, we can find a way to sell it. And if we can sell it for a daily intervention, why live with stress when you can just take your daily medication of
Oh, yeah.
ketamine?
Oh, yeah.
No, like that is so fundamentally against what the human experience is supposed to be. I want you to heal. I want you to overcome your trauma. Like, look, trust me, I am a huge advocate for these modalities. But the reality is, anybody out there telling you or selling to you a life free of stress, free of pain, free of suffering, I'll just tell you right now, they're full of fucking shit. They're an absolute horrible salesman. They have a fucking agenda, and you should run, not walk, but run the fuck away from them. It is absolutely predatory behavior to bill something as the end all cure for your stress, your pain, and your suffering. Full stop. Life is meant to be painful. It's meant to be, it's bittersweet.
It's
Like
meant
we
to be
don't want,
experienced, right? Not just
yeah, yes,
summed up.
yeah.
And then back to like in oral administration, the other thing that I find fascinating is how much we're telling people not to swallow, because if you swallow it every day, you're going to end up pissing blood, which then now you don't want to be my long-term customer. So I need you to hold it in your mouth, which is the realities of it, right? Nobody's talking about
Yeah.
fast metabolism. What?
Yeah.
And a
That's
lot of it,
crazy.
for sure. I mean, there's documentaries on piss and blood, which then ketamine could get criminalized or, demonized or any of these things. And it's like,
Like we
no,
were saying before.
if
Yeah.
you're using it every day, right? For a lozenge or any of these things, you should be able to 100%. Otherwise, it's the metabolites people are worried about. Then you can't do it twice a day. I had clients calling me. They're like, yeah, I knew this batch was weird because it was glittery. And I took it while I was driving, and I had such a profound experience. I had to pull over on the side of the freeway. There's not even disclosures of like, hey, you can't drive on this. They're like, man, just write it out for 2 weeks, see how you do. And then you're taking it as if it's um, something just ordinary, like a Tic Tac.
Yeah. Or Tylenol. Yeah.
Or people are, it's inmate style. We're then hoarding it, we're diluting it down, we're liquefying it, we're crystallizing it, we're selling it as powder, or we're calling people in and now we're becoming providers out of our apartments or whatever it is, and you're taking my dosage and whatever it is. So there's a bunch to unpack in that dimension. But it also, I mean, look at the developmental side of it. If we're going to demonize that, right, or advocate for it, then how is it any different than on every corner there's coffee as a primary drug source? Or why are we selling beer as a 36 pack? Right? Like, could you imagine if people were at the liquor store counter, they're like, "So, how many of those are you gonna drink in the next 45 minutes to an hour?" You're like, "All of them." You know what I mean? Or, same thing with cupcakes, right? You should
Younger, yeah, with sugar. Like that is interesting. Younger me, yeah, 36. That's a pregame, dog. Like,
for sure, for sure, for sure.
Yeah, is that the sad future for ketamine? Is that you go to Walmart and get your super ketamine kit and it's sold by Pfizer, so you trust it, and nobody reads it. I mean, the fact that nobody knows how harmful Ambien is and that it's got one of the most like shocking black box warnings out there should tell you what our medical like system is willing to do to get things out to put it to market. And I feel that ketamine is such a useful, resourceful. It's such a
Versatile.
wonderful.
Yeah.
It's versatile and it helps so many people. And I wonder how much longer before Pandora's box is opened. And exactly that. We see it now, free to use at home. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm not attacking Mind Bloom. I've just been able, and I've been fortunate enough, blessed to have individuals like you, Chrissy, to talk to, whether it was a conference, whether it was have a coffee, or come on this show to talk about the efficacy of ketamine, how it's supposed to be administered, and the protocols behind it. And yeah, I'm gone to school, and every chance I get, I write papers on this shit. So I will tell you right now, I don't feel that it's a safe thing, and it's just like when you want to get testosterone, do you want to take it orally or do you want to administer through a shot? Everybody that's on hormone therapy will tell you, I'm going to go get the shot because by the time it makes it through your system, gets to your liver, like the viability is, it's not good. You're throwing away your money. So with that being said, if you're going home, you're taking an oral medication that's billed as an end all cure all for all your trauma, I think that you should do a little more research. Stories shape culture. They build trust. And when they're told the right way, they move people to action. That's what we do at Security Halt Media. We don't just produce content, we create authentic, impactful, and purpose-driven storytelling for podcasters, nonprofits, brands, and leaders who are on a mission. For people who've lived real experiences and want their message to actually matter. From podcast production and video to strategic storytelling and distribution. We hope you clarify your voice, elevate your brand, and connect with the audience you're trying to serve. If you have a story worth telling, and a purpose behind it, Security Halt Media is here to help you tell it the right way. Click the link in the episode description to learn more today. I don't think these things should be done in your apartment with your roommate blasting music in the room next to you and unsupervised. Like, yeah.
Well, we're doing the same thing with mushrooms. We're doing the same thing with ayahuasca. I just heard something about, you know what I mean? And so there's this. This is part of the mission, right? And this is where I truly am stepping into this dimension as an authority for having these conversations in the sense of, yes, we want healing. No, there is not a fast tracking. You still have to walk through the dimensions of your highest potentials and learn how to become that version of yourself. And depending on how many identities you've created through all of the traumas that you have endured, suppressed, and placated, until we come to a radical acceptance that we are the common denominator in all of our trauma story and how to retell our story without victimization, whatever that looks like for unpacking, and not to deduce the severities. However, is that what you want to keep carrying as you essentially evolve forward, right? And so when we utilize medicine, and this is part of our protocol, part of what I'm coming in to educate doctors, right? And to bring us full circle, I'm bridging a gap, right? And so
Mhm.
now my push is to truly educate doctors to implement ketamine as a standard of care so that your doctor is suggesting that you work with this medicine in house as part of their modality, as an additional service line that they offer to usher in the consciousness to help you reduce your suffering, to allow you to expand, to be able to hear the conversations, and to witness yourself from a higher state of awareness. Rather than there's this disconnect, right? So if I want to go do ketamine, I don't want to tell my primary care doctor because he may judge me. And if that's the case, then I'm also not going to tell him the benefit that I received from it, especially if it was mystical, because mysticism doesn't necessarily translate over to Western medicine. And so my mission is to bridge the gap.
Nice. That's exactly what we need. I think that I've been blessed. I've a lot of doctors that understand the importance of both and can understand it, but I know there's still individuals out there that don't see them as being credible pathways to healing.
Right.
That's just a reality.
For sure.
There are
Full
still individuals that are living under the Nancy Reagan Dare uh, program, and it's like I get it.
I know, I know. It's like, when did you go to school? When was the last time? Continuing education is questionable, right? And depending on
Yeah,
who you know who's offering the CEs themselves, because it can be as easy as signing your name on a piece of paper or hanging out for 3 days at a resort while you get your credits and pay your dues. And so at what point are we continuing our education? Because a lot of what I've seen, a lot of clinicians do not honor mind and body. So, outside of bridging this gap of allowing ketamine to be something that we've standardized, even though it's off label, which means nothing, 70 to 90% of what we do is off label, right? And prescribed for that means. Right. And so, if this is the case, then we need to connect mind and body because a lot of times we don't think that your mind has anything to do with your body or vice versa, right? Like I remember, even as a brand new medic, you're taking an assessment, right? And you're getting people's medications, and if they tell me they're on Prozac and Wellbutrin and Zoloft and Ambien, you're like, you just check a box of mental health, right? But you don't unpack that because we don't want to talk about the mind as if that's completely separate from our profession. I want to talk about your medical history as it pertains to the physicalities, not the mind, as if the mind and body have separation.
yeah.
What is- like the greatest thing that I always come back to is the brain named the brain. It's all made up
That is a
developmentally.
yeah,
We've all made it up, and I'm just standing upon the shoulders of others who have come before me. Some of my greatest teachers are major contributors to our evolution of our consciousness. And right now we're in this threshold of this Newtonian versus this nonlinear, non-local quantum. And what we're holding on to, what works, what doesn't work. We're watching the systems fail. We're watching these different impacts of consciousness. There's more and more intelligences coming out. But unfortunately, until we stop using rats as our common denominator for the human experience,
yeah,
these medicines are constant. The person is the individual. And where my mission is that it's not a one size fits all model. It's an adaptive overlay into your medical practice to make a significant impact on your current clientele. It- the medicine, there doesn't have to be this look, Denny, you're going to come in, you're going to do 6 sessions, you're going to do it every other day. And then that's it, you're done. You're like, no, you may need to sit with the medicine once every 6 weeks because you're going to have such profound insight and awareness into your own regulation and dysregulation that it's going to take you a little while to stabilize before you're ready to drop in again.
yeah.
There is no rush. It truly is a hero's journey.
Yeah, we can't continue to push the idea that everybody's going to have the same experience, the same journey. I always advocate, whenever I share my stories, like, it's like, hey, this is what I experienced. This is what it was like for me. But I think that when it comes to marketing, when you have to go to a marketing department for a pharmaceutical company, uh, I see that being a problem, painting the picture, and it's going to be like every other ad that we see out there. Like the person jogging, and then they go through and they list all the side effects and all the horrible things that can happen. Like, I see that sadly in the future for a lot of these medicines, as they continue to connive and figure out ways that they can patent it and change them, change the structure from naturally occurring to make it so that they can put their spin on it, so they can
For sure,
hike a price.
which is already
Like that.
happening with ketamine.
Yeah. Yep. I was going to ask you about that. Like, that's a problem with it. You can't profit off of, psilocybin mushrooms as they are coming from the ground, naturally occurring. What you can do is synthesize the ingredients and create your own pharmaceutical grade, um, you know, psychedelic.
Derivatives. It's the same thing with
Yeah.
what happened to cannabis, right? And so now we have
Yeah.
these crazy strains and percentages of THC rather than, but then again, the people who are trying to access it, if we took it back all, stripped it down to fundamentals, not everybody is capable or competent of growing
Hmm.
their own, nor do they want to, or any of these things. And so it's that same type of consumerism that we're looking at, right? And so then we're trying to go to market with or create standardization with active ingredients, which again, all those drugs exist within. And so now we're trying to push medicine into the physical body, and the variable is all the inactive ingredients and the health
Yep.
of us at the cellular level.
Yeah. Oh man. It's a crazy world. I am I I'm gonna remain hopeful. I'm gonna remain positive. But I do want to go back to, before we close out, on this journey where you're at now. You know, you've opened and closed so many chapters in your life. You've done so much. Uh, how do you continue building and shifting and pivoting, and still, remain optimistic? Like, you've seen so much already in this world, and you're doing a lot more now and in a different capacity. Like, what are you excited about now in this chapter?
Uh, Not only this powered by flow mission, right, to truly implement this ketamine as a standard of care, but also the educational side. I just launched a program, or I'll make sure that I touch on that in maybe another episode. But
No,
becoming
let's dive into it.
becoming
If we got, if
psychedelic,
we,
uh,
yeah,
I was answering so many of the same questions in session, right?
yeah,
As far as how it pertains to not only the mysticism and the wisdom I keep around having witnessed so many different types of transformational and phenomenal experiences, which now we're trying to captivate with mystical questionnaires, right? Versus the different physiological, anatomical, neural, all these different realms that come into play with the individual. And so I took all of that wisdom keeping and built out an integration program called Becoming Psychedelic, which not only it teaches people how to find a practitioner that is in alignment, the highest good, so that they have more autonomy over having these questions of who is a provider that is demonstrating integrity and is serving the medicine in their morality, understanding the impact of consciousness. And so, really, my vision is to have this powered by flow across the nation so people know where there is a safe place to go to work with medicine. At the same time, giving them this ability to understand the true integration process, self paced, and really giving education. And as far as for me, uh, I do this amazing lecture on what's called fuck it energy.
Yes.
Because the fuck it could come in, right? At all these different levels where you'd be like, fuck it. And then it's self-destruction or like, fuck it, I'm going for it. And so with each level or each dimension that is transcending, I see the ripple effect that that's having in my family and my children.
No.
To continuously evolve my consciousness allows me to see that all of the suffering was self-imposed and made up. It's not supposed to be hard, right? Louise Hay is like one of our greatest contributors to that. It's not supposed to be hard. But damn it. The first 35 years sure as shit were. And so this last decade, I just turned 45, right? To really understand the power of the mind, how to rest on purpose, repairing the adrenals, having done the work of really stripping myself down and dying numerous deaths to be this version of Christi that has this conversation with you.
That's beautiful. That's awesome. Yeah.
Thank
It's,
you.
I think it's important to reflect on that. I don't think a lot of people do or give it enough time. Like it's often just, relegated to like big chapters. And it's like, dude, like make it a moment, make it a habit to sit back and just look how far you've come, what you've achieved, things you let go, things you've gained. Like it'll give you great perspective on life, man. Doesn't have to be just on New Year's. Doesn't have to be after, positive chapters. Even when you're having a shitty time, it's good to reflect. Like that's really what's really important for a lot of us to maintain that positive outlook. Just being able to reflect on everything you've gone through. Like what greater reminder of how resilient you are than just taking a moment to see where you've been, what you've done, and just realize that like you got a lot more left in the tank. You can keep
Oh,
going.
for sure. I have at least 4 more decades on Earth. I'll be damned.
I'd be really happy if I can make it to 85. That'd be 82. I'm partial to the 82nd. Maybe I kick the bucket then.
Oh,
That'd be
shit.
nice.
Ah.
Well, Christy, if people want to learn more and they have questions, where can they connect with you?
Well, you can reach out directly. I'm going to send you the link to our new website. We just rebranded. It's flowintegrative.solutions.
Nice.
Yes, thank you so much. You can also message me directly on LinkedIn. And my contact information is very clear right there for people to reach out. And I have a lot more to do in the space. It's
Heck yeah.
really important to me to give access, coverage, and to really empower providers to serve this medicine as a standard of their care.
Absolutely. That's we need more people like you to figure out those stuck points. It just to me it should be easier for people to access it. Rather the right way, I should say, not access it through taking a pill in your own room by yourself. Like that just there's no healing in that.
Right? That
Yeah.
becomes developmental, right? Because you'll,
Yeah.
like when we did that broke, like some people don't want other people's energy in the room.
Yeah.
And so there can become a point in your mysticism or your ability to anchor in. Because again, if you're opening up dimensions, you're opening up potentials to different energies make their way into your energies.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when you're not talking about ketamine or advocating for others, what are you doing these days for fun? If you're not jumping out of planes or chasing
Right.
adrenaline.
Well, I have 2 teenagers, so that they keep me very busy. And obviously you saw my 2 cutest little dogs
Yeah.
that also take up a lot of my time and energy. So it's really fascinating, this dimension right now of just witnessing my kids evolve. Uh, it's a really important time. One's turning 14 in a couple days, and the other is
Oh
about
man.
to start driving. And so, uh,
Yeah, you get
yeah.
your hands full. That's I'm happy. I'm still in the diapers era, so I'm good with that. She's portable. I can just take advantage of that while I can still pick her up and hold her. And
Oh, yeah.
but it's one of those things where like I'm grateful for plant medicine because I now more than ever understand the importance of present moment awareness. Like, take these little moments in. Like, you before I know it, she's gonna be 14 or 16, and then yeah. And by then my back's gonna be shot, so I'm not picking up any kids.
No.
But guys, do me a favor. You know the spiel. Go to the episode description, click those links, send a friend request to Christi, connect, learn more about ketamine. I will tell you one thing. I love LinkedIn. I know you may not like it. Try it. Give it a shot. It's a new year, new you. Connect with people. Every request to connect in the past year, and even when I got out of the military, was always met with enthusiasm, and I never had any issues. So please, when you're going into the new year, be willing to connect, reach out. It doesn't have to be a professional system. It can just be friggin' Facebook or Instagram. Connect with people, talk, engage. No link than buy an ad on the podcast. I'm just trying to get you to go out there and be more social in the interwebs so you can meet great people like Christi and learn about how you can make informed decisions about ketamine. It's a great treatment option. Please, please, please seek out guidance and information from educated individuals that have information and are in a place of authority. Don't trust Tim, the fucking tool man that you ran into at a Home Depot. Maybe that's good anecdotal information. Yeah. Maybe it's good anecdotal information that will get you to keep searching and asking for help. But ultimately, rely on people like Christi. Ask them for help. So yeah, thank you all for tuning in. Christi, thank you for coming back. I can't wait to bring you out to the other shows and to talk more about this because good people deserve to get promoted and shared all across the podcast space.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you all next time. Till then, take care.